Hello everyone and welcome to Blank First Page. My name is Lucas. In this video we are doing a deep dive into how I use my everyday carry pocket notebooks and talk about some of the shorthand that I've designed for myself over the decade plus of using pocket notebooks. My everyday carry is a Field Notes pocket notebook. I've been using them for over 10 years and my system has evolved. Although it will look messy to you, I've got a very specific system for how I use them. So for this video, I went through a bunch of my field notes to kind of tease out the main things that I use my pocket notebook for. And those are my expenses, to-do lists, grocery lists. I take any form of recommendation down, book recommendation, music recommendation, movie recommendation, that sort of thing. And then I have kind of reference notes, things like appointment information, addresses I need to go to, just information I need to note down to refer to later on. There's nothing particularly groundbreaking there, but around all of that information, I've also developed a visual way of using the notebooks to help me kind of manage through the notebook as I'm using it, and also when I need to then transfer information elsewhere, either to my next notebook or to a longer term reference notebook, I have a way of kind of quickly pulling that information out. And what I'm showing you here are from left to right. On the left is my Field Notes number 1. This is the first Field Notes I ever bought. Obviously is a special field note, and then two of my all-time favorite field notes. And that's mainly because of the combination of the color of the cover, how it's worn in, and the simplicity of design. So starting off with the first page of each of the field notes, I'm already showing you two important parts of my notebook use. One is having the first page blank, and here is, on the left-hand side, is an exception to that rule where I'm not writing, but I'm putting a little memento of, in this case, a ramen restaurant my wife and I went to, which was very good. Then usually one of the first things that's happening in my field notes is my expense tracking system. I've got a whole video about how that works. You can go and watch that. I'm not going to talk in depth about the mechanism behind it here, but that is found all the way through my field notes. The next practical day-to-day example is the grocery list. The grocery list is a list that I have dedicated a whole other video to as well. Here you can start to see a bit some of my system at work. When this grocery list would have been fresh, there wouldn't be anything crossed out, obviously. I would have pieced it together over the course of a couple of days prior to heading into the grocery store. I may have rewritten it in the order in which I would come across these items in the grocery store to make my grocery store visit more efficient. And as I then travel through the grocery store, I would be striking out the items as I get them. So that's the struck out items explained. It means they are done. They're off the list. I don't have to worry about them. There's a clear signal as I look at this page over and over again what I need to focus on and what I don't. The circled items will be the ones that I was not able to get in the grocery store at that visit, so I know when I get back home I have to transfer them to my next grocery list so that I know I still need them the next time I go to the grocery store, or I need to make a separate trip to a different store in order to get them. But that's kind of my first visual indicator that I'm not done with that list. Once I'm then back home and I've been able to transfer the circled items to the new list, I will put a squiggly line through them to indicate that I did not get them, but I have transferred them to a new list. Once I'm done with the information from this page, I will cross the page out entirely. And that is a very clear indicator when I see this line from bottom left to top right that I am done with that page completely. I don't need to refer to it again. As I am flicking through my field notes, my eye knows that when I see the single line, there's no useful information for me in that page or in that section of the page. One of the ways I call out information to myself that I know I will want to refer to later on is by encircling it, similar to the way I described with the grocery list items. So here, for example, I had a TV recommendation made to me that I knew I would not get around to watching by the time I finished this field note, so I would want to transfer it to my next one. And so I circle it so that as I'm doing my changing of the guards, that circled note is going to pop out visually, and I will know to stop there and transfer that information the next place it needs to be. So what looks like, I often call them chicken scratchings, and if you just open up one of my used field notes, it looks like a madman has been through them because it's all scratched out, scribbled in different ways. There's a bit of method to that madness. The struck out line means something's been achieved. The squiggled line means not achieved but transferred somewhere else. A circle around something means come back to this note. And the big line across the page says this page is done, there's nothing useful for you here, move on. I've discussed with you in some of the comments about, not having a reference or an index to my notebooks. I don't need it because I can very quickly hone in on important information in my notebooks through this seemingly scribbly method. For example, for certain shoe brands that I have, I know for that brand I have a very specific size. So I've written those things in my notebooks such that if I were to lose the item of clothing or it wears off as it does in a shoe, I will roughly remember the year and the rough time of year where I would have bought that piece of clothing. I can go and find the 3 or 4 notebooks because they're dated that match up with that time period. And then I just basically need to look for the circled information because that would have been called out. And in any one notebook, there might only be 4 or 5 pieces of circled information, which is going to make a very quick flip through and very quickly get me to that information. And then the last main thing I use my field notes for are as a storage place for just random stuff that kind of has a clear link to a memory that I want to retain. In this case, for example, I have a token from a festival I went to with my wife and my sister in 2023. And in this case, I've got the tags, kind of the boot pulls from the first set of Blundstones that I ever bought, a brand of boots, which I owned. I marked them here from the 4th of June of 2008 to December 2017. I remember that because I bought them on a trip to Berlin with my cousin where we went to watch Queens of the Stone Age. Same reason I went to this festival that I kept this chip from. And they are particularly special because another one of my favorite bands is Fleet Foxes, and I used to watch their live videos constantly, and I loved the boots that the singer Robin Pecknold always wore. There's no obvious branding on them to tell you what they were, so I messaged him on Twitter to ask what they were, and he actually responded. So that's kind of a star-struck moment for me. I just love him and the music that he makes with Fleet Foxes. And so although they are the gross tags from boots that I walked around in for about 9 years, it's a very nice memory to have because it brings back everything I just told you about. So using a simple notebook like this to just quickly tape something in. When I'm going back through a notebook to figure out what size Blundstones do I actually buy, I am instantly reminded of all those memories associated with that. So from a very simple way and simple activity that you can apply to the use of a pocket notebook, you can truly enrich your life, improve your memory, because you're kind of downloading your memories into a notebook. And it's so much more a visceral way of accessing those memories for me than just seeing a photo, which might trigger the memories, but it is not the same as feeling the tags from the boots that I wore for 9 years and thinking back to how excited I was when Robin Pecknold responded to my tweet. So I hope through this video, if you're not already a user of pocket notebooks, I've inspired you to become a pocket notebook user. And hopefully you can also see that you don't have to have a complicated or complex kind of bujo or project planning methodology to just use your notebooks. In fact, the more chicken scratchy it is, the better. And just come up with the system that works for you. There's no genius behind my scratching things out and the circles that I put on things, but it works really well, and it helps me time and time again with what I need out of my notebooks. Let me know in the comments if you've got your own systems that you use and how they work for you. Thank you as always for watching, and I will see you in the next one.